Hello and good afternoon. Well, it's good afternoon from here in the UK. It's 3 p.m. Now, of course, you could be tuning in from America, in which case it is good morning. I hope you've had a comfort break before this, got yourself a coffee. Being English, I've got a cup of tea because it's the afternoon. Also quite useful if my voice dries out while I'm talking to you for the next half an hour. So, as usual, we want to keep these short, sweet, to the point, half an hour, because we know that you guys are really busy. So a few bits of housekeeping before we get started. So as I recommend with all the webinars that you guys tune into, turn off any social media, any of that distracting stuff like social media, like I don't know, Facebook, Twitter, all those kind of things that are going to be using up bandwidth and refreshing all the time. The other thing that you should definitely pause for the time being is anything that's going to be trying to sync in the background. So, you know, any of your file kind of backup things like Dropbox, anything like that. If you've got that running, I'd also recommend pausing that now. If you do find at any moment that the audio or video drops out, don't panic. The best thing to do is to refresh the page. Now, there should be a refresh button below here somewhere on your screen. So if you click on that, things should come back and get going again. So I can see we've got quite a few people already joined us in the room. Of course, as ever, we have got Des here.
Hello, everyone.
And Des is going to be running the chat room. We've got a poll for you guys. We're going to ask you some questions. We're going to try and make this an interactive session to some extent. But the main thing that we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about the mechanics of great audio. Now, this webinar will be available for replay afterwards. Now, it takes, usually we try to get the replay up the following day because it just takes a little while for the webinar software to recomposite and recompile all the video and turn it into something you can rewatch. So if you follow the link that you signed up with and logged into this with, it will be able to take you to the replay. So that should be available tomorrow. Now, let's get started. Well, Meridian has long been known as the DSP loudspeaker company. In fact, so much so that we wrote it on the wall here. We are the masters of digital signal processing, which is cool. Digital signal processing is a really, really useful tool to get the most out of speakers. Now, not everyone, of course, makes digital active loudspeakers. In fact, we are still, certainly in the hi-fi world, we're still kind of in a niche market space, whereas, of course, consumer electronics are now adopting the technology wholesale for things like your little portable speakers, things like soundbars. And the reason that they're doing this is because you can get so much more performance out of a smaller speaker or out of a soundbar if you use digital signal processing techniques. Now, there are lots of people out there that think that digital signal processing is some kind of magic and you can fix everything. Well, the fact of the matter is you absolutely cannot cheat physics. So we actually, as a company, we have to genuinely understand the mechanical side of engineering great sounding products and loudspeakers to be able to then put on top of that the DSP source, which is going to enhance the product even further. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of the features, the mechanical features of the speakers. And we're going to start off with the entry really to our in-room speaker range, which is the DSP 3200. Of course, the other speaker, similar sort of price, is the M6. I haven't bought one of. There's only so much stuff that me and Des could bring upstairs into our little studio before we got completely crammed in here. So we are going to start off with, let's say, our DSP 3200 cabinet. So this is obviously just the cabinet. We have not got any electronics in it. Now, the electronics pack would sit in here. And of course, all of our speakers are digital active loud speakers. So we don't make any passive speakers at all. They've all got the amplifiers built in and they've all got digital crossovers into them. Now, Des has put up a question in the chat, so hopefully you guys are going to get involved. I will tell you the answer to this question, but yeah, feel free to type. Don't be shy. We won't judge you if you get the answer wrong. Now, This is a plywood cabinet, okay? The reason that we use ply rather than anything else is ply is an incredibly good engineering material because you've got the grains running in different directions, and the ply that we use is cold grown birch ply. And the reason we use that is because it has much denser fibers to it. So this is a, say, ply cabinet. You can see the ply on here. Now inside you can see we've got this bath wadding here. If I take this out, you can also see that, again, we've got plywood bracing in here. So this is an incredibly strong cabinet. The reason that we want this cabinet to be so strong is that we want the speakers, the driver, so that bolt into here, we want those to be the things that are doing the talking. We don't want the cabinet to join into the party. We do not want it to add any coloration to the audio. Now, no one's felt brave and decided to chat, so I will tell you the answer to this question, which is, why do we have curved panels on the sides of our speakers? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. One, well, it looks nice. Two, curved surfaces can be very, very strong. In fact, this is laminated together from a couple of layers applied. That makes it very strong as well. The other thing that it does mean is that we don't have any parallel surfaces inside. So we can't have a buildup of standing waves because they will bounce around tangentially inside the cabinet. So strong, solid cabinet construction is absolutely key. And we start off our range with that. From there, we build up, of course, in size and construction. So next I will drag over this, which is our... So this, don't worry, this isn't a real speaker cabinet. This is one that we chopped up. It does, the real one has bits more going on here. But this is one that we like to use to show people the kind of construction in our speakers. Now we can, it's difficult to see inside of here, but we can see that we've got more bracing inside. If I spin this thing round, you'll also see where we've got it cut away. So this has got quite a serious amount of plywood that's going off in this part of the cabinet here. Now, our cabinets are made for us to our design by a company in Yorkshire. And this is a bit special, this cabinet. So the DSP 7200, the 0.2 version and the SE version, and the DSP 8000, again, the 0.2 and the SE version, they all have this extra layer in it. Now, you might just be able to see on your computer there's a shiny line in there, but I anticipated that you might not be able to see it as well. So here is, this is what we call Meridian. So we have got, this would be the outside of your cabinet. Then we have got two layers of ply, which are bonded together. Then we've got a layer of aluminium. So that's the shiny bit in the, or aluminum, if you're from America. And then we've got another layer of ply, and then this on the inside here. So on the inside of the cabinet, this is a kind of, it's almost sort of like waxy, resiny. It's not completely solid. It's a bit like if you've ever used a hot melt glue gun. It's got that kind of feel to it. And the reason that we do this is if we have got, and this is a bit of physics for you. So if we have different materials bonded together, which have different resonant frequencies, it's hard for the energy to actually transition between them. So as we've got different layers of different materials, it means that we end up with a really inert cabinet. So it's one of the tests that I like to do on cabinets to find out if they're going to color the audio or how they're potentially going to sound is, you know, just tapping on top of a cabinet gives you a really clear indication quite quickly of how solid the thing is. So I challenge you to take any Meridian speaker, tap on the top of it, it will be really dense and inert. Now, spin this back round for a moment. So, of course, you may have noticed that we don't sell speakers with no lacquer on the outside because, and this is a DSP 3200 head, this is a lacquered cabinet. Believe it or not, so I was just talking about those layers and transitioning between the layers. Believe it or not, adding the lacquer to the outside of this cabinet actually makes it sound better. So again, it's another layer, and I think there's probably about I think it's up to about 7 layers of lacquer that go on the outside of this. So it's quite a serious amount of material on the outside of it. Again, that adds to the sound properties of it. So all of our speakers are lacquered except for the ones that we've chopped into small bits. And in fact, if I go on to this is really heavy, this one. So this is the head of our DSP 8000. So it has a separate head, and it's properly heavy, this thing. Again, this has actually got a different resin on the inside. So this is almost like concrete on the inside of it. Tried showing it on, you can't really see it very clearly on the camera because I can't get the light in it. But anyway, you can see again that we've got shiny bits of aluminium because this is made out of Meridian. So this is as we've gone up the range of speakers, the construction gets even more serious. I'll put that back down. We took an executive decision not to bring the bottom part of the DSP 8000 up here because it is properly heavy, even without its speakers, its speaker drivers and its amplifiers in it. Now, on to speaker drivers. So that's the cabinets. We have to start off with a cabinet because we don't want it to get involved in the conversation. What we need to then do is we need to pick the speaker drivers that are going in it. Now, this is one of our 12-inch subwoofer drivers. And what we'll do is our engineering and design team will choose the parameters that they're looking for in a speaker driver, and then they will go to manufacturers and find the one that's going to fit. Now, a lot of our drivers come from Sayas. We have a great working relationship with those guys. This is our subwoofer driver, and then moving up from a subwoofer driver, so we're getting a bit smaller and a bit more subtle, is so this is the mid-range driver. In fact, it's the mid-range driver from a DSP 7200, because of course, obviously above here would be the top of the speaker with our tweeter in it. There's an interesting story about the driver that I've got here. You can see on the camera, it's actually clear. Now, when we got the samples through from Sayas for these, they had sent them through with no dye in the plastic. We did some listening tests and compared those to ones which they had put dye in the plastic, and we concluded that this one actually sounded better than the one that had been loaded with dye. So what did we do? We decided that we would use the one that sounded better. We didn't pick this one because it was cool because you could see through it. We picked it because it was the best for the job. And that's what we do with all the components that we go put into all of our speakers. Now, this is actually from a SE speaker. Now, in the 0.2 version of the speakers, this would just clamp in, like I've shown, into the speaker driver, into the speaker cabinet, I should say. Now, the SE driver also has these clamp rings. Now, the idea of the clamp ring is that this bolts in place, and there's plates on the back of the inside of the cabinet as well. And so this is a dead giveaway as to whether you have got an SE speaker or not. Is this aluminium clamp ring, which is holding the driver was pretty well held in before, but it's exceptionally well held into the cabinet with these clamp rings. So that is something that supercharges the performance of the SE, is the addition of those clamp rings into the speaker. Now, the tweeter, which would be up here somewhere, the 0.2 version uses an aluminium dome tweeter, ferrofluid in it, there's neodymium magnets. Now, this is a great tweeter as it stands, and this is what we were using until we launched the special edition range of loudspeakers. Again, we wanted to supercharge the performance of these speakers, so we looked for something that was going to add even more, and what we got hold of was a beryllium tweeter. Now, so the giveaway with the beryllium tweeter is, you might just be able to see that on camera, that it's kind of, the dome in there is kind of grey. Don't know if that comes across, but anyway, so it's a greyish kind of dome. Now, the beryllium's quite an interesting material. It is incredibly light and incredibly stiff, and that's why we're using it in the tweeter, because we can move it really quickly without it deforming. The reason we want it to move really quickly is this is capable of going up to and beyond 40,000 hertz. The reason that we want it to do that is because this is a high resolution audio capable tweeter. So the Japan Audio Society standard for high res audio says that your analog side of the electronics should be able to go up to 40,000 hertz as a minimum. Now, you can't hear the tone of 40,000 hertz, but what you can hear is you can hear the timing. So you can hear the timing that this can produce. And this is such tiny, tiny little vibrations that this thing is creating, but it does it incredibly accurately. So that's one of the other features that supercharges the SE version of the speakers. Now I'm just going to take a quick swig of my tea. Now we have got one more driver that I'm going to talk to you about, and this can have either a white cone or it can have a black cone. This is a wideband driver. So the speakers we've been talking about up until now are a three-way design. That is to say they have a tweeter, they have a mid-range, and they will have bass drivers. This wide range driver will get used in, so this will fit in the 3200, so that's what's used in the 3200. It is also used in the M6, and it is used in our in-wall speakers. So this is a front panel from a DSP 520.2. So the wide range driver has got some special properties. So this is capable of going from 200 hertz all the way up to about 22,000 hertz, and that's why we call it wide range. So this will work in conjunction with a bass driver. Now, one of the other great things about this particular driver is it has an incredibly wide dispersion characteristic. That is to say that when you're off axis, so when you're not directly in front of the driver, you're getting incredibly wide sound coming from it. Unlike, for example, a traditional tweeter is much more directional, and you have to be in the beam of the tweeter. Now, when it comes to doing architectural loudspeakers, having a really wide dispersion is really useful. So, for example, in a ceiling speaker, it's pretty rare that you find yourself stood directly under a ceiling speaker. You'll usually find you're off to one side from it. So at this point, having a wide dispersion is really important to make sure that I'm going to get all of the high frequency information. So that's why one of the key reasons that we use a wideband driver. Now, of course, this goes into this, as I say, this is the front plate from a 520.2, so our new range of in-wall speakers. We've got the 520.2 and the 640.2. So this is the wideband driver. We obviously have a bass driver that goes in here. And in fact, this front plate serves more functions than just being a cover for the front of the speaker. Now, because we make digital active loudspeakers, we have got the amplifier built into this, and it does need a heatsink. The front plate of this speaker acts as a heatsink. Now, the heat from this is very, very minimal because we tailor the amplifiers specifically to the drivers that they are driving. Now, this means that if you use Meridian digital active loudspeakers, the cool feature of it is that your amplifiers in the room, your source is a heater in the room, there is much more space back in the rack at the head end because you haven't got stacks of amplifiers which are sending signals, analog signals over lossy cables to your speakers, which are then turning music into heat and throwing the energy away. So in some respects, if you want to improve your green credentials, I would say that using Meridian speakers will also help. It'll also mean that you have better performance and you've got more space in your rack for putting other stuff. Because let's face it, rack space is something that usually tends to be at a premium on most jobs. So that's the front panel of the in-wall speaker. The other thing that I have on my desk of props is, so with open back, architectural speakers that go in the ceiling, most of them tend to be open back. Now, there are potentially some issues with using open back speakers. Now, Des is running a poll now, which you can get involved with. And I'll just run through actually what the answers are to save you having to read all of them. So which of the following is a disadvantage of open-backed in-wall loudspeakers? Unpredictable performance, sound leakage, higher margin but lower profit, all of the above, or none of the above. So I can see that some people are getting involved in voting now. So anyway, what I'll do is I'll talk you through why we have done this. Now, the back box means that we've got a sealed unit. Now, this means we can have reliable and repeatable performance because we know the void that this is going into. This is just this box every time. Now, so before I worked at Meridian, I was a custom installer out there, out in the field, or in the house, I should say, putting speakers in. And some of the leading manufacturers of in-wall speakers actually require you to make your own back box, which is challenging because if you're on site, it's like you've been working with the carpenters, working with the chippies, trying to get them to make a box which is airtight for you then to fit your speaker in is quite a challenge. So we've took all of that hard work away by actually engineering the speakers to have a solid and contained box. Now it's got foam wadding in it. If I take that out and throw it to one side, you can also see it's got some black sound deadening in here. Now the sound deadening means that we are also not going to have audio leaking from the back of the speaker, which is really important. It means that the audio is going to be just thrown into the room. I've been in situations where I've installed open back speakers in ceilings. If you've got a shared loft space, for example, you can get the audio going back through the speaker and into the next room, because let's face it, a polycarbonate or paper cone is much, much thinner than plasterboard. So interesting poll results coming in there anyway, but actually it's all of the above. So, it's less sound leakage, it's more reliable performance. The other thing as well is that whilst your margins might be better, you can get some really high margin in ceiling speakers. If they're quite cheap, the profit is going to be less. And let's face it, at the end of the day, people don't get paid in margins, they get paid in actual real dollars or pounds. So that's something really important to bear in mind. Now, so back to this, we've engineered everything into it. We've got our drivers in here, we have got our amplifiers in here, and we're going to absolutely guarantee the performance from this speaker. The other thing that we do have in which people with passive speakers definitely don't have, they don't have transformers. Well, they might do if you're using 100-volt line speakers, but that's a whole nother story. But we have got, because we've got our amplifiers built into our speakers, we have to make high quality amplifiers that are efficient and put them in our speakers. We also use proper transformers. So this is a transformer out of that DSP 520 speaker. It's very high quality, it's well made, it is fit for the purpose that it has been created for. And one of the key things about it is really, really low mechanical noise, because we want to have as low a noise floor as possible, because we want the audio to be above that rather than us listening to buzzing transformers. So it's all of those bits that come together really that build the whole structure of a speaker. Well, certainly a digital active loudspeaker. So in summary, really, it's about creating the best starting place for the audio. So using the best cabinets, the best cabinet designs, using the best drivers for the right job, because there are different drivers which do different jobs better, and bringing all of those components and parts together before we start looking at actually putting any amplifiers and DSP into this loudspeaker to bring it to life. Now, one of the things that I do keep saying about is about actually what we're really selling to people at the end of the day. We've been talking about technology for the last 20 minutes or so, but what we're really actually selling to people is experiences, and the technology is merely the vehicle of delivering that experience. So one of the things that I'm always keen to say to everyone is, if you've got the opportunity to, we'd absolutely love to see you here at our factory where we make all this stuff. We've got amazing demonstration facilities, and in fact what we've recently done is created a sort of like a minute-long little mini taster of what it's like at Meridian and what you could experience. So as they say on television, run VT. So hopefully that gave you a little tiny taster of what you might see if you come here. So as I say, we love opening doors and inviting people in to show them the kind of experience that you can get from having really great quality audio and really great quality speakers. So we've got our reference theatre, so we've got a full cinema that we can show people. We've obviously got our factory where we make all the stuff. We've got our engineering teams here. It's all under one roof, and we're all very passionate about what we do. Now, if you do want to come along, please, speak to your sales rep before you do to make sure that we're actually going to be here to open the doors. But it would be great to see you. Now, thanks for taking some time out today to sign in and join us for this webinar. Now, the next webinar that we have got coming up, we're going to be talking about understanding digital audio. Now, digital is the way that we transmit almost all of the information in the world today. And digital audio is something that I'm passionate about, and Meridian is absolutely passionate about, because that's how we deliver the audio to our speakers. So we'll be talking about how digital actually works. So we'll be doing that on Tuesday, the 2nd of July. Other stuff we've got coming up, if you're tuning in from the UK, there's the CEDIA Tech Summit, 11th of June in Wetherby. Me and Chris Cope are going to be there. And on the 2nd of October, we're going up to Edinburgh, and I'm going to be talking at that one. Now, all of these events, so this is somewhere always to have a look at, is meridian-audio.com/events, and you'll see all of our list of events there. And then something I'm really looking forward to is flying over to the States for the CEDIA Expo 2019, which is going to be in Denver on the 10th to the 14th of September. And we're doing some Meridian manufacturer training at this event. So get signed up for that, guys, if you're coming over to the show. We're going to have some more information coming out about that in the future, but we will be doing some technical training, and also we'll be doing some sales training as well, talking about the kind of solutions that we can put together with Meridian products. And again, check out meridian-audio.com/events for details about that. And then finally, last of all, I was saying about coming and seeing us here. This is more of a UK event. So we have Meridian Live, which is for our UK dealers, on the 4th of July and the 6th of November. Now in the UK, we distribute display technology screens, the amazing Barco residential projectors, and also cinema acoustic treatment systems. Combine those things together with our complimentary design service, and we can offer clients an amazing experience, and we'll actually help you design that and put that together. Now, of course, our design service is still, of course, complimentary for our export territories as well. So if you are using, as long as you're using Meridian speakers, we're quite happy to help you put designs together for cinemas and multi-room audio systems, working with other brands and manufacturers. Now, that is pretty much it for me for today. Really hope you found that useful and interesting. It's been great talking to you. If it is the morning, have a great rest of your day. If it is afternoon, good afternoon. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. So it's good afternoon and goodbye from me, and goodbye from Des.
Goodbye.